Nowadays, since superheroes are quite ubiquitous in the movie industry, there has been quite a lot of capital investment put into Marvel games, with higher profile studios producing them, meaning the ante has been upped quite a bit, and expectations are much more demanding, especially considering the possibilities created by today's technological advancements. And it has resulted in some of my favorite games in recent memory, with more potential ones in the future. But that's not saying there hasn't been hiccups in the process, because believe me, there have been. Stop me if you've heard this before. A new Marvel game is teased/announced, a lot of anticipation precedes it, only for the game to have a massive stench of the MCU dripped all over it, trying to resemble it in the ugliest ways possible, and the game ends up performing well under expectations. Happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and recently with Marvel's Avengers, a game with so many concurrent issues, one of which included your IP address getting displayed as your username. Now, being overly MCU centric is not the sole reason why these games didn't do as well as they could have, but it can serve as a red flag of sorts, and that was my initial thought when the reveal for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy came out. The overall consensus about this reveal was pretty lukewarm. It was another Marvel game published by Square Enix that clearly took massive inspiration from the MCU's versions of the Guardians aesthetically, especially the usage of 80s music. God, DMCA is gonna have a field day with that one. And the gameplay looked near identical to the Avengers, on top of characters that did not stop talking, set pieces looking pretty flat, and combat looking very underwhelming. It did not make a very good first impression. But I still had interest in it because a lot of games don't have the best reveal trailers, as they are cut to be more promotional tools of the IP rather than showcases of what the game itself has to offer. The more recent trailers and previews I've seen have put the game under a new light for me, and it looks pretty cool. The biggest draw about the game is that it is a single player focused game with no microtransactions and no stupid roadmaps that won't follow their listed timeline, and no adjustments to the game that promote buying your way up. Usually this formula is a recipe for success. This is not the first time the Guardians of the Galaxy have gotten their own games. Telltale had their version of the franchise, and I never bothered to check it out. I was just really burnt out on the Telltale formula after playing so many of them. But I did like the Guardians' visual designs from what I saw, because I think the cel-shaded comic art style is just perfect for these games. Ultimate Alliance 3, despite not having the best hardware to work with, has an extraordinary art style with tons of vibrant colors that brings out a lot about the characters. And recently with games like Marvel's Spider-Man and Batman Arkham Knight, studios have been able to bring that same vibrant color usage to the hyper-realistic style, and I think Guardians is no different in that regard. The team themselves look pretty good for the most part, aside from Quill's haircut and very high school jock looking face. Very punchable, by the way, but I'll get used to it. The textures look nice, the game's lighting engine is beautiful. What really caught my eye was the game's environments. I am a pretty huge sucker for sci-fi, and seeing the vast amount of spaceships, galactic scenery, spaceports, different species, alien architecture, and different planets that radiate in jubilant color, which is just pure eye candy. Really amped to traverse through the different spaces the game has to offer and learn more about the world, as well as see some deep cut characters in the Marvel universe. God, I hope Nova's in it. Gameplay is where I disagree with a fundamental choice, but the overall prospect and concept of it looks pretty fun in practice, so I am curious to see how it fully functions. Seeing how it is Guardians of the Galaxy, going with the real-time action strategy approach with Star-Lord dishing out commands makes the most sense. Each character have their own abilities with variable status effects and elemental attacks that are meant to be used in combinations to get max damage and break armor and stack ailments and stuff like that. So utilizing each character's unique skill set and seeing how they synergize with each other will no doubt be satisfying. A lot of people have compared it to FF7 Remake's real-time turn-based combat, and it's easy to see why. Where it differs, however, from FF7 Remake is character autonomy. You can switch between Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, and Aerith at any time, and issue commands for one another regardless of who you're playing, keeping the playstyles fresh and giving room for character and player expression. In this game, you can only play as Star-Lord, and I don't like that decision at all. Me no likey. Each Guardian has their own very distinct style that I would love to play with. Nothing against Star-Lord, I like the jet boots and dual pistols, and I don't mind flying around and shooting stuff, but I don't know how long I'd want to stick to doing that when I'm watching Drax muscle people around, Gamora slicing her way through enemies, and Rocket and Groot blowing everything up to high hell. Like, I don't want to just see them do it, I want to do it. So while I do have issues with that fundamental aspect, the gameplay structure itself looks pretty dope. I really like the fact that the game has spaceship dogfights to help shift things up, and I'm curious to see how the skill system will influence the overall experience. In conclusion, the game definitely interests me the more and more I look at it. I don't think it will be a world beater or anything, but I'm not expecting it to. It just looks like a really fun time, and I get to hang out with a pretty cool cast of characters, even if that means I have to sit through a good bit of bland, sarcastic MCU humor. I trust Eidos Montreal to deliver, and it looks like they put a ton of love into it. And at the end of the day, That's all I can really ask for. So with that being said, I am quite looking forward to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike if you didn't, leave your thoughts down below. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking. Consider subscribing, hit that bell, and thank you so much for watching the video. I will see you guys next time.